guys, what's up? My name is Crystal and this is the home for intelligent black media, so let's go ahead and get right into it. So today we're talking about step parents, and this is always a hot topic. People are always talking about it. The speaking points for today are: don't become a step parent, whether you are man or woman. Don't take on other people's responsibilities, and it's an unappreciated role. For the most part, all of those points are legitimate, and I understand when you find a lot of people who do not want to be step parents. I mean, everybody's not cut out for that role, and I actually respect people who are honest with themselves and they're upfront in the beginning. I would rather see more people being upfront about not wanting to be a step parent than not, because what happens is that you end up having a lot of people in relationships with people who have kids, and those kids end up being neglected or abused somehow by a person that never should have been in that relationship in the beginning. So I respect when people are just honest up front when it comes to this conversation. But me, when it comes to me personally, I think it's a beautiful thing to be a step parent. I think that, when you come across someone that needs that nurturing, that compassion, that love to be poured into them, a guide in life, you could serve as a guide to that person. Like, I think it's a beautiful thing, to be able to serve in like that type of like capacity. I've actually dated someone that had 2 kids before, and it was a beautiful experience for me. Like, I cared very much for like the children that were involved. I loved them. And if I met someone today that had kids, I would, I'm not opposed to dating anyone that has like a child. I would actually, but being honest though, guys, I would actually want to date someone that has a young child, because I would want the opportunity to grow with that child versus meeting that child as like a teenager. Like, I would want the opportunity to grow with them so that, like, they can know me and I can know them, and we can create like a solid bond together. But overall, I think it's a beautiful thing. I don't have anything against like step parenting, but the only problems that I see when it comes to like step parents and potential step parents, and this is going back to something that I mentioned earlier. Let's say that you're dating, right? I do not like when people are in the dating scene and they know off grip. They know from the very beginning, right, that they do not want anything to do with anybody else's children, right? These people still, many of these same people still engage in relationships with people that have children, right? And they somehow think that they're going to come in between that and still have that man or woman all to themselves. And that's not how that thing works. You're not going to separate like that parent from like their child. If you date somebody with a child, that's a package deal. Like, you're not going to put that man or woman over here and then put the child over here and think that you're just going to still date that man or woman. That's not how things work, or at least that's how it shouldn't work, right? That's a package deal. So when you're dating someone with a child very early on, or before you even enter into the dating scene, you need to already know what you're willing to tolerate and what you are not. Because I hate to see people get into those type relationships, right? And then when things start to go wrong, they want to blame it on the child. No, it's not the child, it's you. You never should have been in that relationship from the get-go. So, again, if you're someone that does not want to be tied up with someone else's child, be honest with yourself from the beginning and don't get into those type of relationships, because it's not fair to the child. And it's also not fair to the person that you're dating, because it's not like they can split from their child. Again, this is a package deal. This is a package deal, right? What else? What else have I seen? Something else with step parents that I do not like. I do not like step parents who overstep the boundaries of the biological parent. And what I mean by that is, I've noticed a lot of step parents that they sometimes they feel that they have the right to overstep that biological parent just because they are around that child more, or that child lives with them, or whatever the situation may be. And I don't agree, I don't agree with that. I feel like that relationship with that biological parent is sacred, and it should never be tampered with. Like, that door that leads to that biological parent is off limits. The only one that should be able to make decisions about that biological parent, as far as whether they have a relationship or what type of relationship they have, is that child. Now, if the child is young, of course, like the parent, the other parent, is going to make decisions, right? But when that child is old enough to make their own decisions, I don't believe that anyone else should be influencing what goes on with that relationship. So yeah, I've just noticed that some step parents just overstep their boundaries somehow. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So let's say, for instance, that you have two men, right? You have the biological father over here, then you have the stepfather over here, and there's a son involved. And let's say that the biological father likes to bond with his son by taking him to get his hair cut every 2 weeks. Now, it would be messed up, right, if the stepfather knows this and he tries to cop block and he jumps in there and tries to get this child's hair cut before the biological father could do it. This is the type of stuff that I'm talking about, like, just kind of like intruding and impeding on a relationship that does not belong to you. I think that the best thing that a step parent can do is to have a mutual and respectful relationship with that step parent if they can. Of course, this is the real world, and we know that this is not always possible, right? But if anything, hey, like, I'm dating like your ex or whatever, and I'm going to be around your child, I just want us to have like a cordial relationship. It's not like it has to be like a best friends type of thing, but at least like, hey, what's up? How you doing? That type of thing. But yeah, I see that a lot with step parents. Like, they somehow think that they have a right to overstep that boundary, especially if they were there from like the very beginning. And that's just not how that works. You can't overtake the biological parent. Like, they have their role, which is sacred, and it is eternal. And there's nothing that anyone can do to separate that. That is a decision that the child has to make. That's just a relationship that should just always remain intact. No one should tamper with that. But the step parent, they will always have their relationship with the child, which is, equally just as special. So I think it's just that step parent just, has to find their lane and operate within their lane. And there's nothing wrong with that. But those are my thoughts on step parenting and step parents in general. So you guys get in the comments section and let me know what you think about step parents. Are you someone that could be a step parent yourself, or you're like, no, Crystal, I'm not doing that. Crystal, like, that is not my lane. I'm not doing that. Let me know what you think about step parenting. Get into the comments section. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video, and I will see you.